All right, Frank Demore here with the Last Chronicles of Planet Earth. And please, why don't you go visit my website, BibleProphecyMan.com. And now we're going to get into another prophecy. And as you know, that I gave you some information about this earlier today in one of my other videos. And as I brought out about the problem of the food in the last days, and how in the last days Jesus has showed us that people will be working all day long for a handful of wheat, or a quart of wheat, which is much at all. Now I'm going to revisit the same prophecy again and just tie in some other information for you, as you see here. And now, not so much, I'm not going to quote Revelation 6:6 where it says people will be eating all day, for a quart of wheat or some barley, which is not much at all. But I'm going to show you that in the scriptures, in Luke 21:25, in Revelation 16, chapter 16, and also in Luke chapter 21, and again in Revelation 7, chapter 7, verse 15 through 16, we see all of these verses are showing us intense heat. We know that there's going to be massive droughts. There's going to be lack of water, hunger, thirst. And as you know, that a lot of this is going to be coming from the very extreme heat that we're going to see in the last days, that will cause many, many hardships. And over the course of these many years, I've been showing you how the droughts are increasing in many different places around the world. And again, if you go to my book and download my book today for free, you'd be able to see all this documentation. But here's a little glimpse about some new information that it just surfaced. So let me go in, and I'm going to click on, you'll see this article that just came out. This is from Rutgers, and obviously this is not that long ago, April 5th. About 4 million hectares of crops are suffering from, guess what, a severe drought in China. It has hit. Let me go back here. I've clicked on this thing, and sometimes this happens. It hit China's 13 provinces, including the major farming province of Sichuan in the southwest China. And as you see here, the drought has left 7.8 million people and 4.6 million livestock without adequate drinking water. And man, I'm just praying that you'll understand and you'll remember the words that Jesus gave to us in the scriptures that I just pointed out, because we are moving in that direction without a question. The dry spell has dried reservoirs and threatens spring planting, an agency said, cutting the Office of the State Flood Control Drought, or citing the Office of the State of Flood Control and Drought Relief Headquarters. And you'll see here, last year's parts of the county suffered worst drought in 50 years. Now, when you go into my book and you start reading each one of the articles that I document about what's happening over the course of years, you're going to find out that this has become a common theme throughout the news, saying this is the worst drought we had this year, this is the worst drought we had in 20 years, this is the worst drought we've had, and it's happening frequently, more frequently, coming on faster and faster. And again, here we go, the worst drought in 50 years, officials said, with rainfall 40 to 60% less than normal, damaging the crops and cutting power in hydroelectric dams. A drought on a top sugar producing province. And here we go, see, you have the droughts that are affecting the food. So you have freshwater problems. The drought is called food problems. Many, many problems for China, who has an overpopulated people as it is, so definitely some major problems there. Let me go on to another one. Now we're going to move into the United States. You'll see another one of those articles. Texas drought destroys 500 million trees. Up to 500 million dead and dying trees have been tagged as victims of last year's Texas drought, which severely scorched wide open farmland and took a toll on the state's cities, particularly in Houston. The statistical yardstick is staggering, with Texas agricultural officials estimating that now that the drought caused record-breaking crop of livestock losses of 7.62 billion and counting. Again, here we go again, one of those records that we've been seeing over the course of these many years. Every single year we've been listening and reading news just like this. The Texas Forest Service estimates that 100 million to 500 million forest trees may have succumbed. In urban areas, another 5.6 million trees were killed, and experts say that cities probably will feel the environmental and economic efforts for years. The Texas Forest and Service project has cost about $560 million to remove the 5.6 million dead trees. A conservative figure based on the estimates cost about $100 to remove a tree that 8 inches in diameter. So there's some more news showing us that there is definitely a problem in the last days. Now let me go to another one, world news, MSNBC. Time to ditch the umbrella. 20 million hit by drought in southeast England. So we went to China, we went to the United States, now we're in England. And get used to this, people. If for the people who refuse Jesus Christ, I want to just warn you, get used to pictures like this. Because if you're left behind, because you failed to heed the word of the Lord Jesus Christ and his warnings, you're going to be left behind if you don't receive him as your Savior, and you're going to be walking amongst dry land like this, I guarantee it, because most of the people around the world are going to face hardships like this world has never faced before. Now, London has had an undeserved reputation as a rainy city, with things to do when the UK capital is wet, a popular topic of conversation among tourists. But this year could see the image shattered in domestic fashion, with much of the southeast England gripped by, guess what? Seriously drought, currently affecting about 20 million people. Restrictions on the use of water were imposed Thursday for the southeast coast to the river the Humber from the north, and almost as far as west as Wales. And when you read the rest of the article, you know, they're going to have the Olympics there, and they're going to have water controls, and there's going to be a lot of problems because of this massive drought that you now see in southeast England. So there is no question whatsoever that there is problems. Now let me get to some more information that you haven't seen yet, and it talks and addresses the temperatures. The Lord told us that they were coming, intense heat. Check this out.
Look at this. We are above average for the next 5 days. And actually, speaking of the warmth, we're going to check in with Carl now on the record-setting March that we've seen this year. Carl.
Well, scientists at NOAA's National Climatic Data Center have now confirmed what many had suspected, that this past March was the warmest on record for the contiguous U.S., with the period of record extending back into the late 1800s. More than 15,000 records were broken in March, hundreds of which were all-time March records, and 21 of which, listen to this, broke the daytime record high temperature at night. The average temperature for the lower 48, that's all locations, day and night, topped the 20th century March average by nearly 9 degrees, and that is the second largest monthly departure from average on record, behind January of 2006. And there's been a lot of talk about how warm March of 1910 was, and it was, but NOAA says March 2012 was warmer, and the first 3 months of 2012 were the warmest on record. That also set the stage for tornadoes, including the outbreak of March 2nd and 3rd, which is estimated to have cost $1.5 billion, making it the first billion-dollar weather disaster of the year. That's after a record $14 billion disasters last year. The preliminary count of 223 tornadoes for this past March is nearly 3 times the March average.
Now you see that? 3 times the March average. We had billions and billions of dollars worth of damage because of tornadoes. This year that we're leading again towards a new record. And of course, in Luke 21:25, as I pointed out, the Lord said you know, the roaring of the seas and the waves, major storms. We've been seeing the identical same thing as the Lord told us to watch for, and you're watching the news reporting about these things, and most of the world is oblivious to making a connection to these prophecies compared to what is actually happening in the current events. But it is going down, and it is getting worse, just like those birth pains Jesus talked about.
It should be noted that while you can get an earlier start to severe season in a warming world, we don't know that there's anything more than that. We know that warming amplifies the water cycle, which increases the odds of flooding and drought. But tornadoes are a much trickier question because there are varied ingredients that actually may lessen or weaken as temperatures warm.
All right, so let's go down to another one. This is the drought fears in the UK.
Did you know that the sources of bad breath are hidden in the contours of your teeth and tongue? Introducing a breakthrough for Aquafresh. Feel extreme clean.
Sorry about the commercial, but that's, you know, you have to live through the commercials, but let's look at it this way. It gives us a chance to recoup, saying, oh my gosh, you know, are all these things really happening? Could there be something to it? Well, you better believe it. There's definitely something to it. These are the warnings from Christ.
It's a well wishing for water. There is some down here, just not enough. And to reach it, you have to head 100 feet under the Sussex countryside.
There's a tunnel 2.5 miles long which feeds into this collecting chamber here, which then comes along here and is pumped up through these pipes into supply.
For the last 2 winters, not enough rain has drained down into this borehole.
This time last year the level was about here, up to about just below our hips, whereas on average we would expect the level to be above our heads here, so it is lower than normal and we are suffering.
This water will end up in most homes in Eastbourne, the town nearby, and that's a clue about why this is so important. 75% of all water in the southeast comes from boreholes like this.
So what is this building here?
This is our Friston treatment works,
And up on all too dry land, that's the problem for southeast water.
Previous 18 months has seen less rainfall than any time since 1922. The hosepipe ban will stay in place until we've had sufficient rain and our resources are back to the levels which we can sustain.
So it's sunshine rather than rain on the South Downs, and that means Eastbourne, like so many places, will have water restrictions. And the reservoirs aren't doing much better. Water levels here are half what they should be. And tomorrow we'll bring a hosepipe ban that will stay until the clouds bring much more rain. Lewis Warren-Jones, ITV News, East Sussex.
So there you have it. We're definitely seeing a pattern in the last days, and it is causing major problems in the droughts. Now, either you can believe what the Lord said, or you can, you know, toss it away and just go about living your life thinking that everything is going to be okay and everything isn't going to change or get worse. But that's not what the Lord showed us. The Lord told us that there was going to be famines, that people were going to starve, the heat was going to come down, the storms. All of these things are signs that Jesus Christ told us to look for. We're seeing them take place now. Now is the time to give your life over to the Lord. So I'm going to go on and make another video right now for today, and we're going to be discussing Russia's role in the coming Ezekiel war.